environment ever since I was a kid, where I would play in the backyard, spend afternoons in the woods, go hiking and whatnot. But for the longest time, excited as other things came to take their place, and it wasn't until a couple years ago where I got the opportunity to go hiking Olympic Mountains in Washington State. My aunt, who was doing environmental work for where I got to rejuvenate this interest and kind of get back into it. It also really opened like a career path because I thought this was kind of cool. I could do this in the future. And right here, as you can see, I actually got the chance to enter some data on frogs, which is what they were up there measuring. They're a stage species, so they only live in that area. Climate change alters their conditions, they die out. So therefore, I did my internship at the Department of Public Works in Charlottesville, specifically the environmental sustainability branch, and Crystal Ritterhold, I did a lot of stuff under her, but Dan Frisbee, their stormwater expert, I also did a bunch of stuff with. So main topic here, well not the main, but one of the main topics areas, which is where it's kind of like diagram. Okay, so it's a little divot in the ground with layers underneath that filter stormwater runoff. So say you put this next to a parking lot and the one goes to this bioretention area where it can sit, filter, and either drain off into watersheds nearby, like creeks, just run off the parking lot. At the same time, we also do permeable pavement, which is normal asphalt doesn't have avenues for water to travel through, whereas with this, as you can see, there's like cracks and whatnot through where water can also through, and underneath the layers similar to the bioretention areas. I got to sit in on presentation to a class at St. Anne. Well, actually, they came to us at Meadow Creek. This is Meadow Creek. These are actually two images from the same place. But we sat in on a presentation where she taught local, I don't know if they're local, but local school, St. Anne's Belfield. And yeah, okay, so this is stream restoration, which was actually surprisingly a huge process. There was a lot more work put into it than I thought. For example, they started roughly 10 years ago, and I think it just finished very recently. So I got to go and see that, and I learned a lot about the processes of these rivers, such as how these, for instance, these are benthic macroinvertebrates. Benthic meaning below, macro meaning we can see it, and invertebrates with that spine. And these creatures live on the bottom of creeks and streams, so it's good for them to be able to survive. And as these rivers become more sedated, it's harder for them to stay there, and they're important for the ecosystem as a whole because fish eat them, they eat algae, and they increase river health altogether. Also during their stream restoration, this was really strange, I had no idea about this, but they actually added rapids to the river, like you can see here a little bit. But that's important because it oxidizes the river and adds oxygen to the whole system, which I had no idea about. Okay, and I also got to go on Charlottesville's town hall roof. Now in this picture everything's dead, but in the spring it looks a lot more like this. But green roofs are cool because they offer an aesthetic appearance both and a practical one, because not only in the city is space limited for wildlife, limited for plant growth, but these also reduce the amount of energy used in a building. So buildings that have this are much cooler on the surface than, say, a one concrete on. There, okay, Charlottesville's crown jewel, like the greatest achievement so far. They really told me a lot about this. Well, they were really upfront about something. Really proud of it. Was the Fontaine Fire Station, which is completely from the ground up built to be energy efficient. So they've got like 2,000, maybe 20,000, I'm not sure. But they have a large rainwater tank for stormwater runoff. They have passive solar heating built environmentally. Like they chose the plot of land specifically because it would be better and all around energy efficient. As you can see, there's windows, so it's better than it's less energy, cool, crazy. So there's irony in this picture. I'm going to explain that first because as you can see, there's a Facebook hat to it. So they also recommended that I go to the local Energy Alliance program, which is also based in Charlottesville. And their social media person took a picture and posted it there. But ironically, the same aunt from the beginning, who I went and the hiking in the mountains with and environmental work, is friends and follows his page, much to my surprise. So that was interesting. But anyway, this is Trey Biasioli. He was cool. He went on an energy audit for UVA students today. Well, we went to a grad student's house, and they didn't charge anything because they're subsidized by the government. Because they go and do energy audits, they can kind of teach more about energy efficiency and ways to improve your house. So there was this, which is the blower door, which I'll get to in a second. But we also used an infrared gun to view spots in the walls where insulation would be lacking, or where there were cracks in the foundation or anything cold air could get through. Okay, so this is really interesting. What it did was it turned off all of the AC and anything else that would bring air back into the house. And then this blower door would push all the air out, and then because of the negative pressure in the house, there would be, from all the cracks, you would be able to feel cold air coming through, so it would be much easier to identify them. And that was really interesting, because this huge thing just made it really easy to identify these places. So my research question was how human development affects watersheds, and it actually shocked me because no matter where you are, whether it be southern tip of Africa or even Europe, there are major problems with watersheds all over. And there were some countries that were addressing this by doing large-scale projects about it, kind of like, for example, Taiwan has nationalized, or I guess, well, widespread use of stormwater runoff on their roofs because you can make this water potable with a little bit of purification. And alongside them, China has reduced their intake for water for agriculture. Its rice obviously uses a lot of water, and that water often isn't very clean when it's run off afterwards, so it causes issues for the local environments. Now, my community service, I did a portion of it, RVA Clean Sweep in the Manchester area of Richmond, which is important because straight from anything that's in Manchester will end up in the river. So all the garbage there, a lot of garbage, eventually makes its way there. This was a portion of the final thing, the final haul. I think there were still other people out and about getting more, but I contributed to about 4 bags of these, and let's see, that's Florence. But anyway, it's important to keep trash out of the river for obvious reasons. So the rest of my community service was spent at Powhatan State Park with an educational interpreter, Max Forrest, where I was given the opportunity to watch them both educate individuals and join in. Well, like here, for example, there was a bunch of little kids doing an activity involving insects where we would roll over logs and just look at bugs and whatnot. But there was an opportunity to teach about like salamanders because they were under there too. Interesting moment because you can see their experience kind of take charge and then talk about these things as they happen. For my legacy in the future, this is not done yet. I plan to make 2 compost barrels for the school, similar to this design, where for natural resources or environmental science classes can learn about them. And because of our greenhouse, we use it as fertilizer plants. So what I learned about myself throughout this was that I'm really bad at communication. For example, my community service, Max Forrest, thought I was a juvenile delinquent because of execution during email, which was a shock to me at first. But I feel like I've gotten definitely better since the start of the year. Overall. In the future, I'm planning on going to. I have no idea what I'm going to major in, but I have ideas so far. And then for the future, obviously don't procrastinate, but also spend a lot of time sitting in the back and thinking about this. Do something that's fun, interesting. Like if you do something that's boring, you're just going to hate the project, and it's going to have a whole year.
mentioned at the beginning you've had an interest in the environment for a long time. From your experience, what you went through in your research, what do you think is the gravest concern for people that live in this community?
In this community, locally, I'm not sure because there's obviously there's global issues too. But in the community, I'm not sure at all. Most of my work is done in Charlottesville too, which is
What are the concerns for people in Charlottesville?
well, it's a growing city, and that as there's more impermeable areas like asphalt and stuff, there's a direct relationship between that and pollution of water.
And as they learn that, and you learned this, are folks getting involved either through official government channels or politically about economic development?
Economic development, I'm not sure, but there were a lot of people that were there for the Art Theater thing, and it seems like there's certainly some environmental activism throughout Charlottesville.